Hi, this is Roger. Thanks for dropping by. This kitchen time session is effectively a continuing story, and it's the story of the Miltonia Sunset pieces. As the previous video showed, these were soaked overnight in the fungicide. I've allowed them to dry off now so that I can handle them with relative safety. I would suggest if you mess about with anything like this, wear gloves, but I can't stand the flipping things. That's another story. First job is, revisit why we're doing this. There is a pale purple ring round that piece that are good. The previous bulb had a deep purple heavy ring round it, so that bulb was bad. That's a light one, and I suspect if I move down here it will be even lighter, so not too bad. Next one, slightly darker ring here, but I don't take another bulb off. I reduce the strength of the plant, even though that plant, that bulb, may not be able to support this, but it could do, so I'm taking a risk. So that's that one. And then this one has got hardly any purple showing on it, and the fact that it's close to this bulb and this rhizome's extended a reasonable amount, it could have already grown away from it in this section of the plant. It is possible. Okay, so they've all been treated. Right, before any of these bits go in the pot, I'm just going to put a spot of cinnamon on those cuts. I don't want any sort of infection getting in here now, so it's just a dab of cinnamon. If you use cinnamon to seal cuts, which I highly recommend it, it's dirt cheap, readily available, it's probably in your cupboard already along with loads of other stuff you don't use, but it does have a rapid drying effect, and it sort of has sterilising properties. Why, I haven't got a clue, bearing in mind it's a spice. But if you use it, don't get it on other parts of the plant, because it'll dry those up too. It can totally desiccate roots if you get it on the roots, and it can make a severe dry patch on a pseudo bulb as well. So just put it on the bit that you want to seal, which in my case is just the 3 cuts. Right, oh, where's my towel gone? There it is. Don't like working with wet hands. Right, my goal is to get all these 3 pieces in that small pot. They're going to go in whether they like it or not. I've put a little bit of larger bark in there for sort of drainage, but to stop the air cone in the bottom of the pot actually getting blocked up, otherwise it serves no purpose. This is one of my new pots that I got, which I showed in a previous video. I thought, well, as it's a new pot I don't have to clean it, but what I will do is get that horrible sticker off. So that's gone. Right, now I've got to try and arrange these bulbs in such a way that they're all roughly the same depth in the pot, and the new growths have got somewhere to be on the outside of the pot, so it's going to look very squashed. If you could see at the moment, this bulb's climbing and a lot of the roots are pointing upwards. There's not much I can do about that. If I try and bend those down, they will snap. I might get away with it, but I'd rather have aerial roots that can at least take some hydration out of the air rather than snapped off ones. So we've got a new growth there. That will probably be in the centre of the pot. We've got that one there, which will be coming out round that side of the pot, which leaves me one more piece to try and get in here with a place to grow. About like that, I think. Alright, so we've got a new growth here, here and here. That one's a bit low down. Got a way of dealing with that. Right, this will probably need staking. In fact, I'm almost certain it will, bearing in mind I'm having to hold it. Now this is a problem when you get a situation like this. I've got to hold that plant without letting go in that position and do everything else with the other hand. So first of all, I'm right-handed, so we'll change hands. I can hold with my left hand, but I'd rather do manoeuvring and more delicate stuff with my right hand. Now I'm going to try and tuck as many roots in as possible first, and then a little trick is to twist. You see how that's virtually pulling the plant down into the pot? Yeah? Right, now I'm going to try and mix up some of this moss. The moss is pre-used, I'll call it. And I should have done this before when I had 2 hands free, shouldn't I? But I just want some moss down in where the roots are, and I'm going to have to pull that plant up a bit. Yeah, to get some moisture in around what are currently bone dry roots, and some bark obviously. So I've got small grade bark and some moss. I am being a bit heavy on the moss at the moment. I want to keep this plant moist to give it as much chance as possible of these roots getting going. So I'm just looking where I am. Yeah. The problem I've got here is some bulbs are going to be quite deep in the pot. But as I said, I'll work on that in a minute. I'll show you what I'm going to do. So I don't want air gaps if at all possible. So I'm doing a little bit at a time. Yeah, I'm up to there. No air gaps so far. Twist the pot round. I've got a lovely big hollow in there. So a little bit more moss in with what I'm doing. So say I don't want loads of moss in here, but I'd like some just to keep it extra hydrated. And I'm using the bits of bark with the moss for the lower part of the pot. Always go careful if you've got new growths, not to poke around too close to the new growth, or you suddenly hear that nasty click and think, ah, that was my new growth that was and isn't anymore. Right, no gaps there. I've just got that little bit there to do now, where there's lots of roots and no media at all. Now I can let go and break up this moss a bit better. Should have done that first, shouldn't I? I'll let you know, it's the end of an incredibly long day, which is the subject of several other videos that are in the can, basically. I just wanted to get this one filmed on the end of today, so that tomorrow I've actually got nothing to film, but I have a backlog of videos in hand. So it was a long day. I am totally cream crackered, as the expression goes, and I'm looking forward to a nice meal as soon as I've done this, because it's already getting dark out there. I'm not usually working at this time of day, I must admit. This is the delicate bit. I've got a little new growth there and a hollow underneath it, so I'm coming at it from either side rather than directly next to it and poke the flipping thing off. Right, have I got any gaps? No, I'm happy. Just that little bit there. Just need that a bit tighter. And I'm going to get away with not staking this. Right, now I've got bark with moss down round the main root area. I put a little bit of the larger parts of this, even though it's all small grade bark. There's obviously some bigger bits, so we can put those 3 stakes to one side. And this is bark only, and I'm just going to top dress it. So any roots that come out have got something to get into, but this part of the pot will dry fastest because the pseudobulbs are partially buried. Yeah? So that's my idea, and that will seal in the rest of it. It's just a top dressing, and even this new growth here is just going to get bark with no moss if I can get away with it. Just around it like that. So if any roots come out, they've got something to touch, and then they'll get going. But as you can see, I've got pseudobulbs quite low down here, but they're not low down in moss and bark, they're low down in just bigger pieces of bark. So that should stop them rotting and causing trouble down the line. Right, that's all I'm going to do with that. That needs a flipping good water now, because these roots have been bare all day long, and you'd be surprised how fast they dry off if they're not in any media. So I don't think we need a label for this one. I don't think I'll ever forget what this one is. So this is stage 2 of trying to recover Miltonia Sunset from a Fusarium infection. Yeah? We've taken off the really badly infected older parts of the plant, and some of those were pretty bad. leaving the front end of 3 leads, all of which have 2 bulbs and a new growth. So they're all in the same position now, and it's in a quite squashed in pot. Yeah, sorry, I've just seen a little air gap. We'll have to put some more on now, won't I? Just made a hole. There we go. Right, and that's in plenty tight enough not to need staking. That needs a good watering now, get those roots hydrated again, and then nothing needs to be done to this unless it needs re-watering until we come round to its second treatment. Yeah, but its second treatment will be spraying the plant. Now, I haven't done it today, it's late in the day, and it would go into the night wet if I do it now. I didn't want to do it prior to potting it, otherwise I'm working with a wet plant for a start. So tomorrow we'll get this sprayed. I'm going to film every stage of this, so even though that'll only be a short video, I will spray this and soak the whole plant. No need to do the roots anymore, they're done. And then I've got to wait for the interval that it says on the tin. I know I keep calling it a tin and it's actually a bottle or plastic container, but I like to say do what it says on the tin because it's an expression we all know and love. Yeah. Yeah, so there will come a time when I've got to get round to retreating the base of the plant where all those roots will need another good soaking, but I've got to wait for the interval. Yeah, so that will come down the line. It says the second treatment should be 7 to 14 days. Well, as it's an orchid, which might be classed as a little more delicate than some of the other plants that stuff's made for, I'm going to err on the side of caution and go for somewhere around 10 to 12 days. Yeah, nearer the 14 rather than the 7, if you see what I mean. So spray tomorrow, wait for the interval, retreat the whole pot and respray. That's its 2 treatments. I can then wait for some considerable time before I need to consider what I do next. So this is stage 2, getting it potted up. And now I'm going to get some flipping food. See you next time. Bye for now. I just need to add on the end because this is important. Don't forget, this is what I'm doing with my plants. There are many ways to skin a cat, just don't let me catch you. And there are other ways of dealing with this, but this is what I'm doing and I'm documenting it, and we'll see whether it works. And if it does, it's like a reference, but that doesn't mean it's the only way to do it. If you've got your own way and you've found that whatever chemical you've used has worked and your plants have recovered, then great. Make a video and tell us about it. There are people that have struggled with this subject, badly struggled with it, and a lot of it is the conflicting information you get on the internet, and it's knowing how to sort out the wood from the chaff basically, and go back to the reference points and find out where the words came from, and did they come from some old guy that's been growing orchids for 50 or 60 years that thinks this is what it's all about, or does it come from some sort of university studies with backup evidence, and it's good stuff and it's new stuff? That's the hard bit to find out, but that's where you find, quite honestly, the better information. It's modern information, up to date, backed up by people who know what they're doing, that have the intelligence, the knowledge and the qualifications to say how it is, rather than just say what they think. There is a difference. Not always easy to spot. You could look up and say, well, you're just saying what you think. No, I've done an awful lot of reading and an awful lot of work. So it's not made up. It's all based on stuff that's out there if you want to spend the time. I enjoy playing around looking up that sort of stuff and reading it for a while, and then I get fed up and then I come back to it later and all that sort of stuff. But the information's out there, and there's some pretty reliable recent information on this subject, and that's what I'm running with. It's that up-to-date recent stuff that's come from centres of excellence, I'll call them, rather than somebody sat in their garden in a greenhouse, you know, who's just basically made up what they think works. there is a difference. They could be exactly the same, but unlikely. Anyway, that's stage 2 done. You better live after all this. See you next time.